Good morning. Today on the Higher Grounds podcast, we're going to be dealing with a subject that was sent in as a suggestion by one of our listeners. We're going to be dealing with the subject of courtship versus dating. Courtship versus dating. This will be a good episode for parents who have children that are approaching the age of courtship and dating, as well as the young people that listen to the podcast. So you stay tuned today to the Higher Grounds podcast, Courtship versus Dating. Welcome back to the Higher Grounds podcast. Thank you for joining us this morning. Looking forward to spending about 30 minutes with you today, and hope that you're having a great day in the Lord and that the Lord's blessing your life in a great way, a rich way, and ministering to your church and your pastor. And I know there's nothing greater than serving Him and loving Him and walking with Him, and it's a blessing to be here with you today. How you doing, Brother Steve?
I'm doing great.
Things been going well?
Been going very well,
Amen.
well, and just trying to stay busy and for the Lord. But things have been going very well. Getting adjusted. Kids are doing well, and so.
Well, I was fixing to ask how my grandchildren are doing.
Grandkids are doing well. They love
Good.
Papa and Andy.
Amen. Amen. What's going on, Brother Mike?
Just busy and about it. You know, we've come through our summer season, and I love fall, I love winter, and I love spring. So, I mean, I'm getting that peak of this year where I'm loving everything. You know,
I'm telling you,
it's good stuff.
I am looking forward to the first frost.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
I'm even a powder guy. Me and my wife, we love snow.
Yeah.
And we don't get a lot where we live out in central North Carolina, but man, when it does, we look forward to it all the time.
You a skier?
Oh no, sir, no.
My knees won't.
I
like to ski.
You had to be coordinated to do
It's
that.
been a while, but I like
I've always struggled with that.
Yeah, I didn't know you ski.
Yeah. Like I said, it's been a couple of years, but I love to ski.
Yeah. My knees can't handle it anymore.
That clock quit ticking. I mean, I wish I would have tried it years ago, probably, but now, I probably ain't gonna mess with it.
Too much MMA, too many drop kicks, too many.
For me?
No, on my sake.
Oh,
you know,
okay, yeah.
Figure
Your stories are
fours,
always a
leg locks.
little tougher than the rest of us. It always
Messed
battles
my knees up through the years.
stories and
Too many
Football.
kicks to the head. You know, so.
Football and all that.
Yeah,
That's right.
War stories.
All my
Absolutely.
war stories. Praise the
Absolutely.
Lord. Well, hey, we got an interesting topic. We had one of our listeners that sent in a message asking if we would cover the subject of courtship. And as a parent who the Lord's allowed us to successfully rear 5 children without killing any of them. So far.
Amen.
And we've had our children go through the courtship process and married and having babies of their own now and doing well. I thought, well, I think we could, speak to this to some degree. Mm-hmm. And you guys are your children are at that stage where courtship's near in the future for them. And so I'm sure that you've been thinking about that process as well.
No, I've been thinking about it.
And what do you think?
I'm again it.
I'm again it.
I'm again it.
Yeah.
Gotta get it. You ought to be again it. That's right.
Oh, mercy.
That's how, I mean, I just, my Lydia, she's 17, and,
very beautiful lady. Send your numbers in. I'm not talking about your phone number. I'm talking about your bank account number.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All that stuff. And
He's a dowry man.
Haven's a few years, back of that, and I just, I'm not looking forward to. Here's what my son says. So we're talking to our kids one night, and we said, I just, I'm okay if y'all stay home this amount of time and, waiting. And I was just joking about pushing it off. And here's what my son says, who has the gift of gab. He said, Dad, but you and Mom make marriage look so wonderful. We just can't wait to experience marriage.
Oh, boom. What you going to do with that?
I said, I'll knock you out. Knock you out. Don't you be using that with me.
What you going to do with that?
Did you notice, though, he talked about, not really wanting, Haven or...
he didn't mention
girls and Lydia to get in. He didn't mention Seth.
But here's the Seth's
So you
already,
have a different standard for the boys and the girls.
well, Seth's already said, Daddy, when I get married, I'm going to live in your backyard. So I'm good with that. So, I mean, that's okay.
Okay. So y'all
I don't know where my girls are going to go.
yeah.
Right.
So you purchased a tent for him yet?
Yeah, got him a tent. We'll
Got
pitch
him a tent.
out there.
It's a wedding present.
Yeah. So what about you? I mean, you've got...
I've got 2
5
that
kids?
I got 5 total kids. I got 2 that are definitely a lot closer to the courtship stage of life. And matter of fact, than whenever we do.
Are you including Seth in that?
I am, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I am. Matter of fact, he'll be at Next Steps. When the conference comes up, he'll be to come.
Stumble Steps.
Stumble Steps. Yeah. We're going to help you while you stumble through this stage of your life.
That's exactly
our goal.
right.
But anyway, so he'll be there for that. Juliana is a year younger, so she won't be, but we know it's coming. Sooner than later. And I guess you could say I'm kind of approaching it like I'm going to go and start trying to mentally prepare for this, so it's not that big kick in the throat whenever it comes along. And I don't want to mess it up for them. Fumble them through it. Hopefully I can give them some good counsel and
That's it.
keep on the right track. What Seth said about Brother Steve and Miss Crystal. Me and my wife, we thoroughly have enjoyed marriage.
Yeah.
One of my prayers for my kids from the day they were born was that, Lord, if it's your will for them, to get married one day, I want them to enjoy what we've enjoyed.
Right. Absolutely.
It's. I don't want to rob them of that, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not in a hurry for it to happen.
No,
either.
sir.
Love my kids. Love spending time. Love having home.
Yeah. None of our children were real young when they got married. Mm-hmm. I mean, they all understood the process that their mother and their dad, myself, desired for their life in regard to preparing yourself, getting yourself ready for marriage. And that's not just emotionally, physically, but it's also financially.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of young people that start off their marriage behind the 8 ball because they think that they can live on love. Now, I tell you what you can do. You can starve to death on love.
That's right.
I mean, you can starve to death.
Yeah.
And it's not long before love becomes contempt, and contempt becomes hatred, and hatred becomes bitterness.
True.
And then, you've got 4 or 5 marriages under your belt, and every one of them are the same because you were not diligent enough to prepare yourself for marriage.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what we want to deal with here in this process.
One thing, too, that ultimately comes up whenever this topic's on the table is what is the difference between what we would call Christian courtship versus just the dating process that so permeates the teenage years of today.
Right.
And I think speaking of that, I'll give a verse of scripture and then you can take off on it. But the Bible says in Proverbs 13:12, hope deferred maketh the heart sick, but when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life.
Yes.
And a lot of times in teenage years, unfortunately, young people are allowed to get too serious
That's right.
too soon. And hope becomes deferred, and they keep giving their heart away time after time after time, and it can create a rocky road to get to the place of mature. Even after they get saved, later. And so, and the way we view Christian courtship, and Brother Andy's going to allude on, you'll probably have something to say too, is this: there's no sense in putting your hope into something until you're ready for it.
That's exactly right.
You know what I'm saying? That's why
exactly
courtship is pushed off a little bit more in our Christian community than getting started at 12, 13, 14 years old of the whole boyfriend girlfriend stuff. Because you can't get emotionally involved with somebody before you start hoping toward future things.
Yes, sir.
And then that can create a lot of heartache unnecessarily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you're exactly right. There's a couple of words I was thinking about in regard to are there short statements that can be made about the difference between dating and courtship. And of course, when I grew up, in the 70s and in the 80s. We had no idea what people say courtship. I don't want to go to court, man. I'm trying to stay out of trouble, So we had no idea what you were talking about. We just dated. I mean, that's what our parents did, and their parents before them did. And if you got through the dating process without getting messed up morally or messed up emotionally, you were a very fortunate individual.
Sure.
I mean, that's because of the words that I'm fixing to give you. One of the words that I would say about courtship is versus dating. Courtship has an agenda.
Yep.
Okay? There is an agenda with courtship.
Yes. Yep.
With dating, there's really no agenda other than, let's just hang out, let's have fun and see where it goes, you know. And it always starts with a physical attraction.
Yes.
Okay? I mean, I don't know of anybody that says, man, I want to find the ugliest woman in the world, and I want to, because I know she's never going to cheat on me. I don't know of anybody. The very first part of most people's relationship has to do with a physical attraction.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that. God made us that way.
You better believe it.
Okay? But with courtship versus dating, there's an agenda that is larger than just the physical attraction. Okay, the agenda is all right, I'm already finding out, is this person marriage material?
Yep.
Is this person someone I'm looking at their family? Is this someone that I think I could spend the rest of my life with?
Yeah.
And then that's where the courtship process begins. So it's an agenda. Okay. Secondarily, courtship comes with an accountability.
Yep, that's it.
Whereas dating, there's really no accountability.
Yeah, true.
You got a curfew, but I mean, what does that mean?
Nothing.
What does that mean? It means nothing.
Yeah.
And so with courtship, there's an absolute accountability where you're kept in check by people that love you, the authorities in your life, or appointed people by your authorities in your life that help you to stay straight.
Yep.
That way you don't get your relationship started off on the wrong foot.
Right.
There's a lot of people
Yeah.
who have gotten trapped in, and I mean this, they've gotten trapped in relationships that they should never have been in because there was no accountability in their life, and they wound
Yes.
up married to the wrong person. And if they're fortunate enough to continue to be married, 25 or 30 years from now, and you ask them, has this been an enjoyable marriage? Most of them will say, to be honest, no, it hadn't been, because I started out wrong. It's hard to start something wrong and turn it around and make it right.
Right.
Now, it can be done,
Yep.
but it's not, it's not something I would suggest.
Right.
Absolutely. Brother Zeke at Smoky Mountain Revival here a while back made this statement. He said, all relationships are heading somewhere.
Oh,
They're
absolutely.
heading somewhere. So as a young person or as a parent, you're looking at their where is this relationship? If things aren't done right, then that could be heading towards fornication. That could be heading, towards heartbreak. So young and yet develop all these 13, 14 years old, 15 years old, and everybody's, they got a boyfriend, got a girlfriend, and it may seem, but that thing's heading somewhere.
It is.
And what it's doing, they're not mature enough. I wrote this down. We were jotting some notes down. There's something wrong with a young person that they can't keep the room clean. She can't boil a pot of water.
Right.
She's always fussing and fighting with her mom and dad. She don't do this. Oh, but I got a boyfriend. Same way. Guy, he has no work ethic. He has no money. He has no direction. He's not busy. Oh, but I got a girlfriend. That just tells me that you're not mature enough for that.
That's
Your
exactly
relationship
right.
is
That's
fissing
exactly
ahead
right.
toward a bad place.
Right.
Right.
It's just to say I have a boy. And all these attachments. And I see this. Brother Andy, I guess from youth camp and Yusuf, I'm going through in my mind during this episode, and I'm thinking about the young people who were too young, and they were attached and to a boyfriend or girlfriend, and they went through weeks of youth camp, not a camp or a day. They went through weeks of youth camp and youth meetings, and they missed it because they were so wrapped up. And that's my boyfriend this week. That's my girlfriend this week, and you just missed everything God had for you. It's heading somewhere.
That is the parents' fault.
Yes,
the parents.
absolutely.
The parents have to deal with that early on, and you start teaching your children early on. This is the way you're going to be going about directing your life towards your future. Every good parent is interested in their children's future.
Yep.
Sadly, most of them are only interested in their educational future and their financial future, and they're not interested in their domestic future.
Yeah, they just think it's just going to happen.
But you'll never have finances, and your education will be worthless if you're
Say it again,
your
Rev.
domestication in your home.
Just say it one more time.
Most parents are interested in their financial future and in their educational future of their children. They're not interested in the domestic future of their children. And primarily, if their domestic future is tended to, then they will be taught that education is important and that the handling of
That's
money
exactly
is important.
right.
Sure.
The vast, the statistics have begun to change about divorce, but divorce is still over 50%. And second marriages, divorce is still over 70%. But most of the people that have divorces, there is infidelity involved. But sometimes the infidelity has been perpetuated as a result of mitigating circumstances, primarily finances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And so these parents are not preparing their children.
No, sir.
They don't teach them how to save money. They don't teach them, the value of a dollar.
Right.
They don't teach them the value of a relationship. And I'll say this to you boys. All right. You boys listen to Brother Andy. So you're interested in this girl. Okay. You're interested in this girl. Go take and spend a little time watching her mother. You watch her mom. See how her mom speaks to her dad, because that's how this girl's going to speak to you. You see how her mom responds to her dad, and that's how she's going to respond to you. That shoe fits the other foot. Young lady, listen to Brother Andy. go take and sit down and watch this young man's dad.
Yep.
Because that's what you're fixing to marry.
Yep.
In a short amount of time, he will morph into what his dad was somewhere down the line, because that's been his example all his life.
Yep.
That's what he knows. And of course, I know we're in a situation now where, we're single parent houses, and then you got boys that are being raised by women, and these women have no, they're in a situation they don't need to be in. They don't want to be in the situation, but their sorry, low-down man's left them by themselves.
Yep.
And so there's no male influence in these boys' lives, and so she mother hens them pretty good.
Yep.
And then you go to marry this guy, and you have to be the one leading the home.
Yep.
Because he has no experience, he has no example, and he don't know what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all he's ever done is let a woman lead his life for him, because he's had no male direction in his life. So this is a process that's got to be worked through. One of the reasons for courtship is that you get the opportunity to spend time together, months, sometimes years, of spending time asking hard questions, getting to know one another.
Yep.
Invariably, the majority of the relationships that my children were involved in early on in a courtship process ended in failure.
Yeah.
Some of their first relationships. That's a part of courtship.
That's a part of it. Yep.
So you're interacting, and you find out, I like you, but I don't necessarily like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that other person says, man, I really like you. You're a really good friend, but I'm not sure I could spend the rest of my life with you, because I don't particularly like that.
Yeah, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's what I want you to understand.
Right,
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a weeding process. You're weeding out things in the courtship process about the other individual.
Absolutely.
So that you find out if they're compatible with you.
It's going to take some time for you to find out, is this person going to watch me serve God, or they're going to serve God with me?
Right.
And that is a major thing. You better
believe it. Yeah.
Down the aisle.
If the person you're interested in is not interested in talking about the Bible with you, or praying with you, or having some devotions with you, I'd kick them to the curb.
Yeah. I think one thing that distinguishes the courtship process is the time when it starts, the stage of life. Because, like you said, some of your children have experienced some potential courtships, or maybe started the process, and it didn't come to fruition. It didn't end up at the altar of marriage. That's okay. Right. But they weren't starting it at 14 years old either.
That's right.
They were starting
exactly
it
as adults.
As adults, as a mature individual.
That's right.
And that I think is one of the greatest differences, is the mental preparedness along with spiritual and even financial preparedness to say, okay, I am an adult. I'm ready to entertain this season of my life. And so let's talk about what does that look like? Right. We're as a father, have you said, when you get here, then you're ready for courtship possibilities?
Okay. Well, for us, it is, all right, so gentlemen, you're going to be marrying a young lady, okay? And we're looking forward to you doing that. We're looking forward to you having children and serving the Lord in local church. That's what we're looking forward to. Okay, so here's what I'm going to tell you, boys. Listen to me. Listen to your dad. Very first thing, you're not living with me.
Yeah.
You're not living with me. You don't have the right to live with me. If you're going to get married, then you're going to make it on your own. Now, here's how you're going to make it on your own. I'm going to help you through the courtship process, going to pray with you, but I'm going to leave God, you have the Holy Spirit in you just like I do in me. You'll know. You'll know. God will give you direction. We'll give you counsel, but God will give you direction. Okay? So, son, here's what I need you to do. I need you to make sure you're out of debt. There's no sense in you having thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of debt. And they don't. I said, but there's no reason you having thousands of dollars of debt and being involved in some relationship where you get emotionally attached and then you just cannot wait. And then you get married and you start out behind the eight ball because you got a bunch of debt. So get that taken care of. Number two, saving some money. All right. We need several $1,000s. I'm not going to tell you how many. You're going to have several $1,000s laid aside. These several $1,000s are going to be used to help you get started in your life. I want to see your bank account. I want to see, and for the boys that we're marrying my girls too. Okay, so I want to see that. So yeah, we see that. Okay, you're going to have a steady job.
Yeah,
you have your cars paid for. I'd prefer you to have 2 cars. Okay, but I want you to have that in order. I want you to have that in line. They do. Okay, gentlemen, here's something else. I want you to be faithful in church. I want you to be serving in church. And I want you to be loving the Lord, spending time with the Lord. You'll never be able to make the right choice for a potential mate if you're not dedicated to God.
Right.
And so these are some things that we talked to the boys about, the girls. For the girls, it was the same. They were looking for young men that fit that category. Hardworking young men.
Oh yeah.
I've told all of our children this. I will when I give you away, that's what I'm doing. I'm giving you away, and I'm going to give you away, but I don't want you back.
Yeah.
I really don't. And I've told my sons-in-law, I'm giving you my daughter. I don't want my daughter back. I don't want her back, and I don't want you back either. I don't want y'all. I want you to go enjoy life and have a good life by yourself. Okay, serve the Lord. We'll all serve the Lord together at church. We'll fellowship together, but I want you to enjoy living by yourself. Okay, so one rule is this: I will never put my nose in your business. I will never, ever try to tell you what to do. I'm never, ever going to give you a hard time in your marriage. So there's two things you have to understand. If you ever ask me for a dime, one dime, I'll stick my nose so far in your business, you'll wish you'd never asked me for a thing. You got to make it on your own.
Sure.
Then if you are violent toward my daughter, you abuse my daughter, then I will get violently involved in your business. But other than that, I'm not messing.
Sure.
I want you to have your own life. I want you to enjoy your own life. And the process for us has been very good. Okay. And some of the guys ask, well, what's the ground rules? Well, the ground rules have been you can talk on the phone one with another. Generally, you're talking on the phone in the presence of the rest of the family. Not always, but you text back and forth. That's fine, but you're not going to go out by yourself. You're going to have chaperones with you. Maybe a couple here at the church. A husband and wife couple from the church, or me and my wife and I rather. Or it may be, brothers or sisters, but you're not going to go by yourself. And,
Right.
and why not? I mean, why do we not go off boy and girl by ourselves, brother?
Right.
Because we're human.
We're human.
We're human, yeah. And I mean, passions or can get involved, and you can make mistakes that you regret. I mean, if you've got to that place in your life and your purity's still intact, don't take the chance of trusting the flesh.
Right.
And
Exactly
mess.
right.
You can
Trust it.
No, you can't trust it. So
The Bible said we can put no confidence in the flesh.
Absolutely,
right.
yes, sir.
I mean, I've been happily married for nearly 35 years, and I love my wife, and we love one another and try to serve one another as husband and wife. And I'm submitted to the needs of my wife and submitted to her as a serving husband. She's submitted to me as a serving wife. That makes for a great relationship.
Sure.
But I'll say this: if you put me alone with an attractive woman, and we were constantly spending alone time together, and then the barrier breaks down to where we're talking about interests that we have one with another, and we develop some kind of a friendship, it's not going to be long till I'll be messed up.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And that's true about anybody.
Sure it is.
Absolutely.
And so we try to take away the opportunity.
That's right.
And let's see, if you're bound and determined you're going to sin, you're going to sin.
Absolutely.
No matter what kind of restrictions are laid on you. But the bottom line is we try to help make them accountable during this process.
Sure.
So nothing happens that shortchanges them
Yes, sir.
from having the best life possible.
Right.
So here's I won't mention any names. I'd like to, but I won't. So my wife is in a place, and she bakes cakes and whatnot, and so she was doing a cake for a wedding or whatever, and this well-known preacher, if I called his name, the vast majority of you would know him. As a very matter of fact, some of you that watch my podcast attend his church, and so. This pastor, my wife's got there, and she's got the cake there, and they're showing this video of this young couple, and they're kissing and they're hugging and they're, being very romantic one with another prior to their marriage. It's none of my business. Whatever, however you raise your children, I'm just giving this podcast because somebody asked for it. Okay.
Right.
So this pastor comes up to my wife, okay? And he comes up to my wife and said, "Your preacher preaches against that, don't he?" And my wife said, "Pardon me?" Said, Your preacher preaches against that, don't he?" And she said, "Sir, we're here as guests. This is none of our business. But you asked." Mm-hmm. "Yes, sir, we do. We do believe in 1 Corinthians chapter number 7, mm-hmm. where the Bible very clearly says it's better for a man not to touch a woman to avoid fornication."
Right.
Yeah, yes, we do believe that. He said, "I don't believe all of that. Mm-hmm. I don't preach all that. I believe," and he just went into his little tirade, little guy.
Spiel.
And my big old son, Ox, was there. That's what we call Bob. Caleb. We call him Ox. Very, very timid young man. Very, not timid, but very docile young man. Very great man. I mean, great man. Leads our choir here at church. And that little old preacher was about that far from getting his teeth knocked out for that man talking to my wife the way he was. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't have scolded him if he did. Mm. You don't approach another man's wife and disagree with
you're a coward.
You're a coward. That's exactly what he is. And you know what? His kids ain't turned out too good. Mm-hmm. Looks to me like he should have used the process.
Yes,
you follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
All we're trying to do is create a foundational platform to launch our children out to the greatest life possible.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And just by obeying God's word, you can do that.
Exactly right.
Absolutely.
The world says try everything. They've got the Hollywood and the music is what molds their relationships.
Right.
And
right.
You better you let God do it.
Popular culture cannot be your example.
That's exactly right. And if it is, then you're not going to like what you get.
Right.
So that time comes, and they've prayed and they've done things right, and God has given them the green light to get married. And then you go into marriage counseling through the church and people.
8 weeks.
Then, 8 weeks.
And
then
what we require.
And then you get married, and it's a wonderful thing, and you're glad that you did it God's way.
Absolutely.
Right.
Nobody ever regrets doing it God's way.
No, I've never met anyone who has. We're on the front end of this. We don't have experience like you have. We've not got to the first courtship yet. But I know a couple years back, my son Seth, we're riding back. We've been working together some, and he's about 16 years old, and he brings up, Dad, what does that look like, and when do you get there? And so we kind of went through. I kind of talked to him about, there being a point when you were ready. I said, but here's what you got to understand. I said, in a marriage ceremony, there's a part that happens in every one of them that is lightly esteemed. We don't think a lot about it. I said, but there's a time when a dad answers the question about giving his daughter to that man. And I said, for you to be ready for courtship, you should be ready to take his place in her life.
That's right.
And I said, in 4 areas. I said, number 1, you should be able to spiritually lead her.
Amen.
Yep. I said, number 2, you should be able to financially provide for her.
Amen.
Number 3, physically protect her.
Yes.
And number 4, emotionally care for her.
Amen.
I said, her daddy has done that. And then I told my daughters the same thing. I said, if you're looking for the right guy, I'll be able to put your hand in his hand, and he'll be able to take my place. And that's what we want him to do.
Absolutely.
And I said, so, and I've kind of used that as just a way to condition the conversation, as we kind of lead up to that. And so, and I've talked to my older kids before, especially my son, as he's gotten older. I said, are you getting yourself ready to meet the criteria? I said, because until you're there, I would never give you my blessing of talking to a man about starting a courtship with his daughter. I said, don't wait till you find one you like or you think you're interested in and then try to get ready overnight. It don't happen that way. You're getting ready now in your work ethic, in your spirituality, everything for that day when you can go ask that man for her hand. And me and your mother can give you the blessing. And same thing with our daughters.
Amen.
That's right.
Yeah.
We just want the best for our children.
Just want the best for them. Yeah, absolutely.
And putting God first and following his law regarding this is the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Great.
Just because a person is saved doesn't mean that they're right for you.
Right.
We put our children, as well as all the couples that come to us to get married, we put them through a personality profile test to see if their personalities are even compatible. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we'll find that they're complete opposites. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that we taught our children was try to find somebody that's compatible with your personality. Yeah. And when you do, it's a good platform.
Yeah.
Amen. Hey, I think it's been a good episode, don't you?
Wonderful.
Amen. Hey, from the Higher Grounds podcast, you keep pressing on the upward way.